As a runner, if there's only one stretch you're ever going to do, I want this to be the one. Which stretch am I talking about? What body part are we going to be working on? There are so many different areas we could work on, but I really want to dial it back to fundamentals and think about, as runners, what areas we really need to make sure are moving well. If you're familiar with my stuff, you've heard me talk about this sort of thing before, you're probably already guessing I'm going to be talking about the hips. Making sure you're moving well around your hips is so fundamental because it means that you're not going to be compensating elsewhere. Typically, we see if people are tight around the hips, for example, they end up overusing their calves as they're running. So I'm not going to be talking about calf stretches. I want to really get back up to the top of why perhaps those calves are tight, and it's looking at your hip flexors and the whole region around the front of the hip. This stretch, number of different variations, I want to show you just a handful of them as we get into this short video. So, we're going to start out half kneeling. What we're not doing is taking a big old lunge forwards, okay? I simply want to think knee under hip, ankle under knee. Okay, kind of 90-90 type position, roughly. From there, I want to think about the pelvis like a bowl of water, and I want you to consciously tip the water out of the back of the bowl. So you're tucking your tailbone underneath you, thinking about consciously squeezing your butt on this side. Okay, that in itself might bring on a bit of a stretch down the front of the top of the thigh, okay, into that hip flexor region, because we're really targeting a muscle called rectus femoris. Don't worry about what muscle it is, just focus on the area. Okay, as you squeeze your butt, keep that squeezed. You should feel that you're continuing to get that tuck underneath you. You can even draw your belly button in to really intensify that posterior rotation of the pelvis. And you're just going to hold that on for a few seconds and relax. 1 and off. 1 and off. I don't need you doing lots of static stretching. Just want to encourage a bit of movement, particularly if you find yourself sat down a lot throughout the day. Okay, from here, once we've done 15, 20 of these little reps back and forth, we can start to adjust this ever so slightly. I want you to think about what we're doing with this other hand, this hand which is the same side as the knee that's on the floor. Let me show you from front on. So in this position, exactly the same, but obviously through 90 degrees. This hand, where you come up, we're going to lengthen right through this lateral line of your body. You're going to come up and over the top. And as we're doing that little squeeze and push, we're reaching over. So we're not only driving forwards, we're also driving over. The end result is we get this kind of push into that diagonal over there. This is where, if you're tight through areas like tensor fasciae lata, TFL, we're adding in a little bit more of a focus on that kind of outer quadrant of the front of the hip. And again, we can just work through a gentle, it's not dynamic, it's not bouncing, little 15, 20, little gentle pushes into that direction. Now, if you feel that you're perhaps a little bit tight through your groin, we can very simply change what the rear leg is doing. So we can switch across, turn out ever so slightly. Okay, we're in this turned out position now. You can see what the rear leg is doing there. From there, we're opening the hips and we're still pushing forwards into this position, still thinking about this posterior tilt of the pelvis. Okay, from there, just reaching back, we're back with both arms as we just gently push forwards. Again, 15, 20 of those. We do the same obviously on the other side. Having worked through those, you hop up, you'll feel that little bit more freedom, that little bit less restriction around the front of the hips, moving that little bit better. And you'll know through, again, some of the stuff you may have seen on my channel before, that the better we move through the front of the hip, the easier it is for you to be able to use your glutes when you're running. They'll be less inhibited, less mechanically kind of disadvantaged. And of course, that means you're going to put less stress, less demand on areas like your calves, your Achilles. Honestly, your whole body's going to be happier as you run. So let me know how you get on with that. For me, that's the #1 stretch that us runners need to be working on. Okay, if you found that helpful, check out the video right over here, because it'll really help you figure out whether or not you're actually using your glutes as you run in the first place. Kind of important.